need a convincing security architecture. And this security architecture must, at least in the long term, of course, also include Russia. There is simply no other way. We must avoid a war with Russia, because that would be a nuclear war. And I want to say this again, because it is always portrayed differently. No weapon, no army in the world will be able to protect us in a nuclear war. That can only be achieved through diplomacy, through arms control agreements. And that is achieved through good relations with our neighbors. Things used to be much better in our country, but right now things are moving in exactly the opposite direction. What matters to us is having a country where the state actually works. And here too, we can see how so many things are going wrong. From the infrastructure to the truly excessive bureaucratic regulations that paralyze our authorities and put a massive strain on all other public processes, all the way to our small and medium-sized businesses, which are also heavily burdened as a result. We don't want that. We want a functioning state with functioning structures that ensure the interests of the population are truly protected. Another point that we clearly reject, because it keeps coming up in the debate, is the issue of compulsory military service. We reject any form of conscription. At the moment, everything is based on voluntariness, but we are already hearing voices loudly saying, well, right now it is still voluntary. At this point in time, it is still a matter of choice. We need a convincing security architecture. And this security architecture must, at least in the long term, of course, also include Russia. There is simply no other way. We must avoid a war with Russia, because that would be a nuclear war. And I want to say this again, because it is always portrayed differently. No weapon, no army in the world will be able to protect us in a nuclear war. That can only be achieved through diplomacy, through arms control agreements. And that is achieved through good relations with our neighbors.
We are experiencing a toxic mix of war loans that will burden the economy and the state in the future, without creating anything productive for the country. We are in our third consecutive year of recession. We have rising unemployment and a crumbling infrastructure. We want to lower energy prices, an important issue for trade unions as well as for business associations who repeatedly complain that energy prices are too high. We say that energy should be purchased where it is cheapest on the market, and that does not mean US dominance over European energy policy, as Donald Trump is aiming for, but rather a return to Russian gas and oil via pipelines, which from our perspective can also be a diplomatic step, a door opener. To bring about a peaceful end to the war in Ukraine, we are opposed to CO2 pricing. Our energy costs are already far too high as it is. And in this situation where energy costs are already crushing the economy and weighing heavily on citizens, artificially raising prices to try to educate people is, in our view, the wrong approach. Another important point for us is trade policy. We are currently witnessing how Germany is being run over in this area. We had the tariff conflict with the USA, which ended with a so-called deal that was nothing more than a kowtow to daddy. We pay, so there will be a 15% tariff on European products, but 0% on US products. And they even cheat when it comes to the steel content. Now, for a number of products, tariffs are continuing to be raised. Additionally, the USA is pushing us into further economic wars that are not in our interest at all. On the one hand, we just had the economic war with Russia, while industry in Germany is faltering. Behind our backs, Putin and Trump are negotiating bilaterally about new economic relations. Germany is out of the picture. It's similar with China. Nexperia, the chip manufacturer in the Netherlands, was also taken over by the Dutch government under pressure from the USA, with the result that the automotive industry in Germany can't keep running because the chips aren't being delivered. And again, the same pattern. Without Europe, without Germany, Trump, it seems, is reaching a bilateral agreement with China.